Welcome. I am so excited and celebrating that you have found your way to my website and that you may be beginning to initiate the dialogue and inquiry into what body-led, nervous system-led healing looks like for you in your life, in your unique experience. And if you are, there's a ton of written information here that I go into great detail on my website, writesherway.com. And if you're not really a lengthy reader type of person, I've got you, right? This is exactly why I'm creating this video. So you get a chance to get to know me a little better, put a face to all of the lengthy text on this site, and begin to understand the techniques and ways in which I work with and facilitate individuals, right? So with my practice, Writes Her Way, my name is Christine Wren. I'm a trauma-informed somatic integration coach. And I work both locally in Boulder, Colorado with clients as well as remote all over the country and even world. Specifically, I'm working with and facilitating you through your autonomic nervous system and as it connects to your primal brain stem. Yeah, so the same way that you would go to a psychologist or a therapist to process or find resolution and healing around something traumatic that happened in your past, maybe something painful that's happening in your present, concerns or worries, anxiety about your future, or just trying to find ways in which to manage maybe some non-serving behavioral patterns that seem persistent and unsolvable in your life, right? The same people with the same issues come to me, right? And to work at a deeper unconscious and body-led level. Yeah, and I find often that the people who end up at my website or at my practice or reaching out to me feel as if they have exhausted the extent to which these other modalities can and have helped them, right? Maybe even medication, other body therapies, things like yoga, meditation, and they're looking to go really to the root source of all of this stuff. Now, the ways in which we're really facilitating this work, okay, is through the language of visuals, your inner landscape of visuals, which is what the deep primal and unconscious parts of your brain represent as and speak to you in. And we're also working with your felt sense, right? Your body's repository in texture, in feeling, in quality for some of the emotions and experiences that are happening in your life. Yeah, and I tend to find that this works in a number of layers, okay? Not always in this chronological order. It really depends where and how ready you are in terms of where we start, in this process. But first and foremost, at an outermost layer, we have working to heal and integrate things like false constructs and limiting beliefs, right? Identity structures that you have inherited, imbibed from society, from your parents, from religious institutions, and limiting beliefs that you have about what's possible in your life and for you. And a lot of those are actually informed by one layer deeper, which I'll get to next. What tackling that first layer typically looks like is 1, ensuring we're not bypassing your experience. 2, recruiting your higher order mind in allyship in the process. It really has an integral part to play in all of this, but just in likely a slightly different way than a psychotherapist maybe has led you in the past, right? It needs to be on board to recognize and identify when those limiting beliefs and false constructs are happening and manifesting themselves into your experience, right? Then from there, what we have to begin to do is revoke your contracts with these systems, yeah? And we do that by having you be rooted in a foundation of safety, right? Both externally and internally in your body, and me inviting you to close your eyes, taking you through a deep, anywhere from 30 to 50 minute inner embodiment and guided visual imagery journey, right? To both feel and imagine and see what it is for you to draw back into yourself the power that you've been giving away by adhering to these inherited limiting beliefs and false constructs, okay? So that's at a first layer. Now, as I mentioned, one layer deeper is typically the things that are really feeding that primary outer layer. And these are things like trauma, non-serving but persistent behavioral patterns, and I would say mechanistic default type survival responses that seem to hijack the system, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses that we want to eventually be able to have a little bit more conscious utilization and control over. So when we're working at this layer, it looks unique for every individual. Creating that foundation of safety is super important and critical, okay? So we'll spend a lot of time together ensuring that at any point in your experience, in your activations, that you are able to find, resource, and call up, anchor yourself back into safety. Yeah, what it looks like, what it feels like in your body, where it lives. Yeah, so from there, they look like a lot of different things, right? We take this one piece at a time. But the process, as I said, unique for everyone, but working with visuals inside the body, working with the felt sense, moving the body, breath, sounding. Overall, we will always be doing this in a titrated way, right? You think about this in a slow expand, contract, expand, contract, expand, contract of the nervous system. This work and the can't be done in an overwhelming way. That is not the goal. That will typically cause more trauma and more harm and just the nervous system to completely shut down, right? And collapse. And that's not what we want, okay? And to be clear here, trauma by its definition can look like things like shock trauma, car accident, something that really hurt you and threw you at a moment in your life in the past. Can also look like physical or sexual abuse, but it doesn't have to. Trauma, by definition, at a biological level, is just anything too fast, too soon, or too slow, too little for the nervous system to handle, okay? So, as we are beginning to peel back layer upon layer from this secondary stage, we typically begin to get to the heart of the matter, which are things like core wounds, reintegrating latent parts of you that never received something really critical that they needed during their development, and shame. Shame is typically always a part of the heart of the matter. Now, with these second two layers, right, which I just mentioned, the core of the matter and things like the trauma, the survival responses, and the non-serving behavioral patterns, those two combined, the process in general, like I said, unique for everyone, but in general, paradoxically, typically people are coming to me because they don't like these things that are happening to them or in their life. They want desperately to change them, right? They're looking for me to facilitate them, to shift them, and as quickly as possible. And the paradox is, step one in all of this work typically always looks like, after that foundational safety piece, figuring out what those parts of you, what those experiences need from you, what you're not giving them currently, and turning into yourself, me guiding you to do that, eyes closed at an embodied level and with visuals, to give yourself what you are not giving, yeah? And almost always that looks like validation, love, acceptance of these patterns and these aspects, these constructs, exactly as they are. And we need to do a lot of that work for your system to feel safe enough to begin to move anything around or begin to really facilitate shifts and come into that full integration and harmonic fullness. And for you to slowly over time begin to have that conscious ability to choose how you respond choose your behaviors, choose what is possible for you, right? Versus being dictated and driven by the deep primal parts of your unconscious and your autonomic nervous system, right? Because until you come into full understanding and allyship with those parts of you, they are always going to be driving the show, no matter where you consciously focus on what you want or where you want to go. So there's so much more detail I could go into here, but if this has piqued your interest in this work and in my process and techniques, I really would love and welcome to explore with you how I could help and facilitate. I would love to hear what it is you are currently experiencing and what role I might play in that. So I look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to reach out through the contact form on my website or Christine, CHRISTINE, @writesherway.com. And you can also find me on socials and Instagram @writesherway. Thank you.